Could the New South Wales government be in a bigger mess? The Deputy Leader of the Liberal Party, Stuart Ayres, has resigned. I'll come to that in a moment. But I do not know how the New South Wales Treasurer and Energy Minister, the bleeding heart lefty Matt Keane, survives. This is the bloke who criticised pre-selections during the last federal election. He was an endless critic of the Morrison government, yet was a member of the Liberal Party that formed that government. Anyone else would be expelled. Yesterday he was at it again, criticising New South Wales Premier Perrottet's treatment of the sacked Minister Eleni Patinos, as opposed to the, at that time, not sacked Deputy Leader Stuart Ayres. A journalist on Monday tweeted her concern about the perceived double standards applied to the two ministers. Her tweet said, and I quote, "The perception amongst women, something very rotten in New South Wales government. Swift, decisive action against a woman accused over the possibility of unsafe workplace practices, and yet the Barilaro Ayres situation, double standards, women have long memories, especially when it comes to vote," unquote. Keane, the New South Wales Treasurer and Energy Minister, bleeding heart climate change disciple, retweeted a response to the journalist's tweet exclaiming, "Oh my God, yes, thank you for pointing that out. Utter disgrace." Why isn't he sacked? Instead, he argues there's now an official ban on fat thumbs in my office. In other words, it was a mistake. This is white-anting of the worst possible kind at a time when my information is the same person, Matt Keane, is trying to rally the numbers in the New South Wales Parliamentary Liberal Party to challenge Perrottet for the leadership. Well, then today, the big story that the Deputy Leader of the Liberal Party and the Minister for Enterprise, Investment and Trade, Tourism and Sport and Western Sydney, Stuart Ayres, according to media headlines, at the centre of the Barilaro issue, Stuart Ayres, as announced by the Premier, resigned. He's resigned also as Deputy Leader. When announcing this at a press conference today, Premier Perrottet did himself no credit when he repeatedly failed to acknowledge that Stuart Ayres, from the get-go, has denied any wrongdoing. However, the New South Wales Premier said he'd received a briefing from the Secretary of his department in relation to parts of a draft report commissioned by the Premier on the Barilaro matter. The Premier argued that the parts he had seen, quote, raise a question. Now, this is extraordinary. Note paragraph 3. I've just shoved that up. We'll leave it on the screen. Note paragraph 3. Raise a question as to whether Mr Ayres has complied with the New South Wales Ministerial Code of Conduct, unquote. But at no point has the Premier explained wherein lies the breach. There it is up there. It's an extraordinary media statement. In paragraph 3 of the Premier's statement, we're told that Ayres is gone because parts of the draft, quote, raise a question as to whether Mr Ayres has complied with the New South Wales Ministerial Code of Conduct. Raises a question. To be fair to Mr Ayres, shouldn't we answer the question before seeking his resignation? But then have a look at the final paragraph, which says, quote, a further review will therefore be undertaken to determine if Mr Ayres has complied with the code, unquote. Now, hang on. This bloke has lost his job, his deputy leadership, his ministerial role in critical portfolios because of a question over an unspecified breach of the Ministerial Code of Conduct, yet there'll be a review as to whether he actually complied with the code.